Heading into AQ20? Clear all bosses with this fast facts guide, so you're not the one standing in fire. Hey there, thanks for watching. I'm Daintree Rogue, bringing you hints, hacks, and guides shorter than your flight to Silithus. Today we'll walk you through what you need to know about all 5 bosses in AQ20. Keep an eye out for our upcoming AQ20 mob guide, and don't forget to check the timestamps below if you'd like to revisit any fights. The first boss you'll come across is Kurinaxx, and it's a pretty simple fight. Kurinaxx stacks a Mortal Strike effect on the tanks, so tanks will have to swap at about 3 stacks. There is also a cleave and an enrage around 30%, so save your cooldowns. The main thing to watch for is the sand trap. It's like a little sand bubble that forms on the ground under a player, and you need to react quickly. If it hits you, it's a 20-second silence and a huge chance to miss for melee. So ranged and heals spread out, and tanks get ready to move the boss if a trap appears under the melee. Oh, and once the fight is done, don't talk to the NPCs. Talking to the muscly dude named Ahn'Qiraj will start a Gauntlet event with 7 waves straight into the second boss, General Rajaxx. I won't go over each wave in huge detail, as none are particularly difficult. Check the fast facts of each wave for any specifics. There are a few different ways to do each wave. We like to pull the mini-boss off to the side against a wall and kill it last, while the raid AoEs the lesser mobs first. Wave 3's Captain Dren does a hurricane, which really hurts. Make sure tanks pull players and NPCs out of the hurricane. You might have to taunt off Ahn'Qiraj here. Healers should keep Ahn'Qiraj alive, as he hits hard, heals the raid, and provides a damage buff. The hardest part of this fight is ensuring that your mana will last until the boss in Wave 8, so go easy where possible. And by now, your healers are probably getting a bit thirsty, so just slow DPS and try to regen some mana, although the next wave will start automatically at some point. The last wave is Colonel Xeren. Xeren casts a Dispellable Enrage on itself or a minion. This is your last opportunity to regen mana before the boss comes at you. General Rajaxx only has 2 main abilities. Firstly, he does an unlimited rage thunderclap which also knocks back, and it does 50% of your current health. So unless you are below 100 health, it can't actually kill you. The thunderclap should be the only raid damage, so healing the raid isn't super important. If you've kept Ahn'Qiraj alive, he will go about healing the raid slowly. Oh, and the thunderclap is a threat reset, so take care. The second ability is another threat reset that occurs randomly, so between this and thunderclap, DPS has to pay attention. Once you understand these 2 abilities, it's an easy fight. Buru is a fun fight. It has a whopping 660k HP, but each egg that dies beneath Buru does 5% life. Clear the flesh hunters and start attacking an egg with the goal of getting it to 5%. Buru targets a single player and slowly moves towards them. That player should kite Buru to a damaged egg, and watch out for the deep water here, then blow that egg up once Buru is over it. Kill order is an egg to 5%, adds, then the boss if you want. Do this until 20% enrage and tank and spank to finish the fight. If you're liking this no fuss raid guide and would like to see more, let us know in the comments, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Stick around for the hardest bosses in AQ20, Ayamiss the Hunter and Ossirian the Unscarred. Moam is another optional boss and is pretty easy. Moam steals mana, and once near 100% mana does a massive AoE knockup which will most likely wipe you. It probably won't kill you outright, but it's usually the beginning of the end. We've cleared this fight using 2 locks, 2 priests and a hunter draining mana. Most raids won't hit the 90-second mark where Moam turns to stone and spawns 3 adds. If so, just banish the adds or tank them out of the raid until Moam is dead. Watch their AoE though. Ayamiss the Hunter is a wasp that flies around until about 75%, so the first stage is purely up to the range DPS. You can use a hunter to tank with Aspect of the Wild, or use their pet, as there is a weak stacking poison, but usually this phase ends pretty quickly anyway. While the ranged do that, all melee should get to the altar that Ayamiss was guarding. Every now and again, the boss paralyzes a player and spawns a yellow grub at the same time. If the grub gets to the top of the altar, the paralyzed player dies and an elite spawns, which is bad news all round. So kill the yellow grubs immediately. Healers watch for AoE damage like an aura on the raid, and like most bosses, there is an enrage. As long as no grubs reach the altar, you shouldn't have too much trouble with Ayamiss. The final boss is Ossirian the Unscarred, an annoying fight if you are melee. Ossirian by default is enraged and does insane amounts of damage, so you have to activate these crystals to de-enrage and make Ossirian vulnerable to a school of magic for 45 seconds. In that time, you must find another crystal and activate it once Ossi is near. I find the easiest method is to have a melee stay mounted to look for the random crystal spawns. It's good to have a dedicated clicker on the crystals too, as they take about 4 seconds to activate and the tanks need to be concentrating on positioning. Starting the fight is often the hardest part, as it's tricky to gauge when to activate the first crystal, and you can't afford to tank Ossi in the meantime. If you activate the crystal as Ossi hits the sand, you should be about right. The boss also does a large AoE knockback. In general, you are better off trying to stay in front of the boss than behind, because if you get knocked back, it's hard to catch up with the constant movement. Ossirian will also cast Enveloping Winds on the main tank, meaning that the 2 tanks need to be the top 2 on threat, so if your vulnerability is up, watch your aggro. Finally, decurse healers, then casters due to Curse of Tongues, and watch out for the giant whirlwinds. We hope you liked our AQ20 fast facts. Good luck and let us know your boss strats in the comments, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. This is Daintree Rogue, gone rogue. Thanks for supporting us and see you next week.